Henry, an elderly man, lives alone in Paris. Constance, a girl from a town outside Paris, is struggling to pass her driving test, attempting it for a fifth time. She works with her father but desires to move to Paris, a wish her father disapproves of. Constance searched for Parisian housing and encountered Henri, an elderly man whose son was renting a room despite Henri's objections. A piano, forbidden to be played, was in the house Constance liked. Henri was rude and actively discouraged Constance from renting, offering excuses to refuse her tenancy. Constance sought a room in Paris after leaving Henri's house, following an affair with a married man, Arthur. She discovered a rental room at Henri's house, fulfilling her Parisian dream. However, Arthur was pleased by her departure. Constance traveled to Paris and arrived at Henri's house. Upon arrival, she received a book outlining house rules, the first of which prohibited anyone from wearing Henri's slippers. That night, Constance found out that Henri did not like her daughter-in-law, Valerie. He told Constance the same thing and told her that Valerie was a crazy woman and that she wanted to put him in a nursing home. Constance, having stopped playing piano years ago, Henri initially forbade it, but relented. Facing rent issues, Constance offered services to Henri in exchange for housing. Henri requested that she help him destroy Paul's marriage and win Paul's affection. Constance reluctantly agreed to a task to have her rent forgiven. She subsequently found a waitress job at a bar. Paul, Anor's son, visited Constance seeking her care due to his worsening illness and his strained relationship with his father. He also brought medicine for Henri. Henri mocked Paul, causing Paul to leave. Constance began working at a bar and befriended Henri, while also attempting to study, though unsuccessfully. Constance cooked to impress Paul, who later arrived home with Valerie. Constance, a shrewd woman, easily gained Henri's trust. She befriended Paul, and their conversations about Henri's late wife's piano led to an argument between Henri and Paul. This prompted Henri to ask Constance to play the piano. Henri cried after hearing a song that reminded him of his wife. Constance cried after failing a college course, feeling hopeless about her future. Valerie initially misunderstood Henri's tears, believing he disliked the music. Paul left after realizing Henri's emotional state. Valerie visited Henri's house for utensils. Constance became ill and vomited on them. Upset, Constance revealed her unhappiness working in her father's shop and quitting piano due to a teacher's influence and lack of paternal support. Encouraged by Henri and Valerie, Constance sang a self-written song, receiving Henri's praise. Constance learned that Henri's wife died 30 years prior. Henri believed Valerie only cared for his money, but Constance knew Valerie loved Paul. Constance subsequently refused to work for Henri and told Valerie to leave. Returning home, she discovered her room was being converted into an office, prompting her to deceive her parents about returning to Paris. That evening, she was forced to entertain Paul at Henri's house, leading her to question Henri about him. Simultaneously feeling hopeless, she was offered enrollment in a music school by Henri. Constance manipulated Paul into liking her by learning his preferences from Henri, ultimately initiating a relationship proposal. Paul's refusal, due to their age difference, led to Constance's self-reproach, though Henri advised her to end things after achieving her goal of breaking up Paul's marriage. Meanwhile, Constance ignored Matthew's tour invitation, focusing on Simon instead, causing Matthew to leave her. Constance began a relationship with Simon, but Paul also developed feelings for her and pursued her. Paul accompanied Constance to a club where Matthew worked. There, Constance discovered Simon had forgotten her. Paul's attention improved Constance's mood, and he felt happy about his developing relationship with her. Paul's absence all night worried Valerie, leading her to discover proof of his infidelity. Henri's plan worked, resulting in Valerie leaving home. Constance learned that Henri applied to the London School of Music and recommended her to a musician, despite Paul's continued silence. Paul visited Constance, who revealed she's moved on and has a new boyfriend. Simultaneously, Paul faced divorce proceedings initiated by Valerie. However, Valerie then informed Paul of her pregnancy, which seemingly saved his marriage. Henri, however, reacted negatively to the news of the pregnancy. Paul was unhappy with his father's response to some news and threatened to cut off contact if his father didn't improve. Paul shared the news with Constance, resulting in happiness for both of them. However, Paul's father later discovered Constance failed an exam and summoned her home. Henri criticized this action, highlighting the importance of not diminishing children's happiness. Despite his own attempts to do so with his son, Constance echoed Henri's criticism. Henri blamed alcohol for his wife's death, preventing Constance from drinking. Constance prepared to leave, meeting with Valerie and Paul, who waited for Henri's return. After Valerie shared her pregnancy news, Henri, though outwardly happy, felt burdened. Before Constance departed, Henri urged her not to delay pursuing her dreams. Constance refused to return home, declaring her intention to become a musician in Paris. Her father, initially resistant, eventually accepted her decision, recognizing her stubbornness. She subsequently prepared for a music exam, composing her own song, and departed for London with her father's continued support. Constance successfully completed several rounds of an exam. Weeks later, Henri died. Paul informed Constance that Henri had been happy in his final days, seeing his grandson and learning of Constance's progress. Constance failed her last exam. Paul gave her Henri's house for her stay in Paris and a letter from Henri. The letter contained advice for Constance to never give up, and Henri mentioned forgetting past grievances after seeing his grandson. Inspired by this, Constance began studying for her next exam. The end. Subscribe to support us.